Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Farrier. Bakers and pastry makers across the Caribbean getting to show off their talent in the British Virgin Islands next year. February 16 and 17 will be the first ever Caribbean Baking Awards. Some 13 countries participating, 31 participants from across the Caribbean, including Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada. Here in Grenada, we have 6 participants, and we're going to actually 5 participants, and we're going to be talking a little bit about them as well later on with SHANDA Webster, who is the woman behind it all. She's joining me now from Old Town, BVI. Welcome to the program, Shanda.
For having me.
All right. You are in Old Town, right? You're in Totola. You're
Road Town.
Road
Actually,
Town. Road Town, not
yes.
Old Town. I knew I was making a mistake. There is an Old
But
Town, but it's a Road Town.
I'm actually in Old Plantation, very not too far from the airport.
Oh, okay. All right. And this is your brainchild, your baby. You're a baker. You do cakes and
Yes,
so.
I am.
And you decided to have the Caribbean Baking Awards. It's the first ever that's happening. Why did you decide to do that?
Because, and that's a very good question. My husband and I, we are singers, musicians, and we have participated and was nominated and won multiple awards for music awards in Antigua and in Atlanta. And being a baker, I haven't seen much in the Caribbean when it comes to recognizing great talent within the culture and the Caribbean islands. So I'm
Yeah,
like,
well,
you
I
know
mean,
what?
just to jump into say here in the creative sector in the Caribbean, there isn't much by way of recognition for our people. That is
Yes,
true. Yeah,
yes.
go ahead.
And that is one reason why I decided to do this because as a baker, we show a lot of skills and talent and sleepless nights when our children and husband and everybody else is sleeping, and we are up for the morning putting things together to allow that person's special day to come alive. So it's a lot of dedication, it's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of skills, and to me, I think we need to be recognized for that talent that we have in that industry. So that's one reason why I decide to show love to my fellow bakers throughout the Caribbean.
And the Baking Awards, the 2024 first Baking Awards, is being supported by the government of the BVI as well as the
The
tourist board
tourist board.
there. So you've got
Yes.
the government institution supporting this and behind it.
Yes, very much.
So you're hoping, I suppose, that that will also serve to boost your own tourism and draw more attention to BVI.
Yes, and this is another reason why I'm actually here with you today, so we can encourage more persons from Grenada and around the Caribbean to not only vote for the nominees, but come on over to the British Virgin Islands and show support to your Caribbean participant, and I mean that will boost this event even more, and we all can come together as one Caribbean, showing the love that we have for these professionals when it comes to pastry chefs and bakers. And we're not only um, showcasing the bakers. We have uprising stars that are now starting into the business. We also have persons that are into wedding cakes only, the persons that do cupcakes, cookie art, persons that sell cake products like fondants and cake pans, and where you could find all your cake supplies in one store. We also have a category for that. So there is about 18 categories, and we have 32 nominees, and again 13 Caribbean islands participating in this event. And it's a 2 days event. So of course, we have the award gala dinner ceremony, and we also have the wine and cake tasting showcase.
Let's talk about the wine and cake showcase that you're doing, because it's not just a tasting, but those who have not been nominated, and we'll also talk a little while about how you came up with those 32 nominees. Those who have not made the cut of the first 32, they're getting a chance to actually bake in Tortola and
Yes.
and have their work judged there. How is that going to
Yes.
work out?
So there is a registration form on our website that you can fill out. They have about 6 categories because everybody will be judged differently. Everybody is talented in their own way and creative in their own way. We will have some persons that might be professionals in using buttercream, and some persons don't use buttercream, but they use fondant. Persons that do 2 or 3 tier cakes, and there are persons that can only handle a 1 tier cake. So this is why we decided to have the categories like this, so everyone can be in their comfort zone and don't feel intimidated because they cannot work with buttercream, and then they have to work with fondant. So um, they can.
Fondant, educate me, school me here, please. Fondant and
So
buttercream
fondant.
sort of speaks for itself, but explain the difference. Explain the difference.
So buttercream is using ingredients like butter, ice and sugar, a little vanilla, and some of us use milk. Not all the time, and it depends because we do have different type of buttercream. We have the Swiss meringue buttercream, we have the French buttercream, we have the German buttercream, and we have the American buttercream. The American buttercream is what everyone knows and raised up, baking in the kitchen with our grandparents, just using.
And that is actually in the cake, or we're talking about toppings?
This is what you would use to ice the cake to have that beautiful, creative look when it's finished. For fondant, you can buy ready-made fondant from the store, which is also made from ice and sugar if you ordering it from the store. And it's a rolling. Um, I don't even know how can I explain it, but it's a thick paste that can rolled flat to cover a cake, and it will be nice and smooth, and you can use it to make creations like flowers, like little birds, stuff like that you can place on the cake to give it that, what we call to make the cake look nicer.
So
But
you can use it to sculpt things,
Not really.
designs and
I
shapes.
wouldn't advise to use fondant to sculpt. They do have something called modeling chocolate that you
Okay.
can use, and the modeling chocolate is like clay to say. So when you put that together to mold someone's face, it can stretch, and you can use a modeling tool to really draw, like add more than one pieces together to make it smooth. Whereas with fondant, you won't get that. I mean, you can try, but it's a lot more harder because of the fact that it dries very quickly if you're not able to use it in a nice environment. And if it's too hot, the fondant tends to melt. So it's a little tricky, it's a whole lot of different things.
So there's a lot of science as well behind baking, and
Correct.
you have
Correct.
to teach me how to do this buttercream, because I know I have had a million failures on the buttercream, because after you explained, I realized Mama's been trying
Hmm.
to make it and not having much success.
I
So
mean, I love using buttercream, and I'm teaching myself currently to use buttercream only because I love art. I was very good in art in school and music. So I like to be creative. So if I'm using buttercream, I don't go just for smoothing the cake outside. No, I'm trying to use buttercream to make to pipe nice flowers, different type of flowers, which I'm still learning. And there is a trend now that you can use buttercream to make, the palettes that you use for painting. Like if you're painting on a canvas or something, and it dries like a thick. So if you're making a flower, you would use the flat of the palette knife, and the way the technique that you use, that would curve the edge of the flower. So when you keep adding that around and it dries, it looks like a 3D type of object on a cake. And you can pipe on a nice person from buttercream like me on a cake, and it gives that 3D effect on the cake. So you would not know it's buttercream unless you know what you're doing with the buttercream. So it's a lot of work. Baking now has evolved from back then to now, and as you mentioned, yes, it is science. You have to be precise with everything. Measurement has to be precise. You
And
cannot
it's
go over
not.
or go under.
Well, I do have a measuring cup in my kitchen. I do have that, at least I do, and a sifter, so I don't
Uh-huh.
get lumps. But I have a ways to go. But and I want to talk in segment two when we're talking. I want to talk about the science of baking and how baking has evolved and how things are different. I remember my fondest memories of baked products is at the Catholic harvests in a town called Victoria, where I grew up on Grenada's west coast. But we did not get to delve into the wine and cake tasting, which is important for people who have not yet gotten into the competition, that they still have a chance
Mm-hmm.
to get into the
Yes.
competition and get to Tortola to show what they have. Um, and you have one of the things, you have some specific criteria that you'd like people to follow for this, in terms of using indigenous colors and flavors, because it's not just about competing to be selected as the best in category
Yes.
in baking, but also an opportunity to showcase what's great about each island. Break that down for
Yes,
me.
so it is it's not an individual project. So you have to have a group, and the group should have at least 2 to 5 persons in that group, because you're now representing your Caribbean island. So I'm if I've never been to Grenada, which I haven't been to Grenada, but I
I,
love
sh-
to see pictures.
I
I mean,
shake my
it's
head at
beautiful.
that. You haven't lived yet. You haven't lived yet.
Oh my god, I know. I can see it's really amazing, and trust me, one of these days, or maybe next year, who knows, I might visit you. Um, but once you participate in the cake showcase, we have 6 categories. We have the two-tier novelty cake. We have the Caribbean Island celebration cake category. We have the tier wedding cake. We have the 100% buttercream cake category. We have the hyper realistic cake category, and we have the sculpted cake. Those two are my favorite because this is what I love doing. So, for example, if you choose to do the Caribbean celebration cake, someone from Grenada wants to do this cake. Now it's a single tier, but you have to use a celebration from Grenada. So give me a name of a celebration that you guys have in Grenada.
Have independence celebrations coming up. We're celebrating our 50th anniversary of independence. That's a big one.
Yes. So let's use that independence in Grenada. Now that the group needs to showcase whatever is used for independence, colors, the culture clothes that you wear for independence, that will have to showcase in the cake. You have to be able to sell Grenada in this cake. So if I want to